А сейчас мы поговорим по очень интересную
Right now, we're going to speak about a very interesting and important topic for Russia about operating systems. And we're going to communicate with Alexander Butin, Director and Marketing from the Astra Group. Thank you very much. And separately, thank you very much for calling the word marketing as it's supposed to sound marketing. I am myself did work in this area, but Russian speaking, I was thinking about it. In Russian, it would sound better marketing than marketing, but it's a totally separate topic. It's a more a philosophical topic for the conversation. Okay, let's see. Let's try to speak about operation systems, like with a big picture, because in Russia it's going to be totally different. But in the beginning, I would like to understand what really happens globally in the world. Well, what changes are happening in recent data in operating systems? What comes to you? What leaves the market? Which trends do you see in the market? Okay, listen, if you will think globally, then perhaps I wouldn't point out any specific super noticeable shifts in this market from that paradigm which is available in the market. If you will look at the market of the operating systems completely, well, approximately 90+% of this market will be taken by Microsoft with their operating system, and approximately 3 to 4% will be on the side of the Apple company, together with their fashionable and beautiful operating system. If you will speak about starting trends, about what really happens in the world, there are ideas about the movements, about movements. Well, it's very difficult to formulate it, but we see the beginning of the process of eating the piece of the Microsoft's pie in different corners of the world, and this is related, very successfully related to the topic that is essential at the standoff event, and this is the information security. Right now, practically all the states, including Western Europe, they understand that their IT infrastructure basically is under the hood of these organizations from 3 letters from the United States of America. Yeah, because they manufacture the Windows operating systems, and if these movements on the side of the Western countries, they are insignificant right now, the economy, well, if you will look at the economies of the developing countries, they really feel this pressure. And this is all Asia, this is Latin America, this is Arab countries, this is Africa, and out there we are going to start big fight of these countries, for the vendors of global operating systems, except for the China that is going to participate in this all over the world. And right now, all the significant state facilities, they have shifted to the usage of my solutions and their own solutions and Chinese operating systems. And after them, they've stepped the business and everybody else, and medium and large and even small business moved in this direction. From this point of view, China shows miracles of substitution. From a certain point of view, it's a good example. That's how it works right now. Well, China have their own operating system on the basis of Linux or their own. Yeah, this is a Linux-based operating system which have been changed from the point of view of design and user experience. God forgive me. Help me, please. User experience in Russia. It's gonna be 3 user experience, from the interface and the logic of their activities in this system have been changed from the Linux-based one so much, so significantly that they are difficult in being perceived as Linux. I've been at several forums in China, in Shanghai. Shanghai as one of the cities in China. And I've seen those operating systems, and I've been communicating with developers, and they've been telling me that this is Debian, and I'm looking at this and I see that from Debian they had only back end, but on the front end I don't understand, because it looks like Mac OS. It looks like, and usability-wise, and from movements and button pressures and everything else, it's Windows. So immediately, even keeping in mind that initially I approach it in the Chinese level, I understand that if I will press this button, I know how it can go through the way of the file manager to the interesting folder. So from this point of view, they are really good guys.
Берем с них пример и стараемся у них учиться.
Вот, давай теперь вот о нас поговорим.
And we are learning from them. So let's speak about us.
Насколько катастрофично
Okay, how catastrophic right now we have a situation in Russia with operating systems. Catastrophic from different points of view. For example, the same availability of the information for foreign intelligence services, speaking about popular systems, then our readiness or unreadiness, or maybe readiness, and you will tell me to implementation of our own operating systems.
Слушай, ну,
So what is available here?
общий, и можно очень долго.
Well, it's a very general question, and we can talk about it a lot.
Что касается
And I would separate several cross sections. As for the informational security,
там
when
назад, 4 года назад,
3 years ago, 4 years ago,
что, ну,
we've been asked a question, well, you understand that all this movement for the import substitution, and only thanks to these, Russian products are being looked upon as operating systems and many other ones, and we've been saying that, yes, it is obvious that import substitution plays as a good game for us, and they've been asking us, do you understand, colleagues, what are you going to begin this movement from for the import substitution? What was the main reason? And the main reason was first of all, informational security and critical informational security. And second of all informational infrastructures of our country. The obvious thing is that at a given moment of time, this problem of availability of infrastructure for Western special services, for hackers that are working in other countries because they know the infrastructure on the basis of popular foreign solutions. An important factor, especially in the current year, it shows us how this position of the company, of the organization which uses Western solutions, how vulnerable it is. So speaking about catastrophe or non-catastrophe is not the right thing, but on the level of all the states, as a company, as a corporation, and all the way to the middle business, including the large business, and we need to get away from Western solutions. That's definitely. Well, there's a degree of the president which tells us that by the 1st of January of 2025, all critical facilities should move to software, either domestic or from friendly countries, and we should say no to unfriendly software. If you will classify Windows and Mac as a software from unfriendly countries, what are we going to use? Well, here we are. Speaking about operating systems, today, the same thing, the same government represented by the Ministry of Digital Development of the Mass Communications and Telecommunications have defined a number of operating systems, which include operating system Astra Linux, fortunately, which we manufacture and produce and develop, and for which it is recommended to switch with the need of defending the infrastructure of the state. Operating system is ready and they work quite a while, and right now we are improving the ecosystem in our market for this, and of course I will say that this process is getting completed, but it happens continuously, and honestly speaking, okay, let's say all the changes which are happening on an annual basis, they are much bigger than those changes which were happening last year. This is about the growth of the ecosystem. This is about the growth of specific solutions which, well, I know our solutions and which help with this operating system. It helps to work with this operating system as it is useful to work with admins of Western solutions. Simplification for the admins, simplifications for the users, changes in the interface, implementation of a friendly design. everything which have caused several years ago, eye twitching for any person who was making decision from any big company or organization. Today, eyes are not twitching. Yes, it's understandable. I cannot call the readiness of Russian solutions. I cannot say that they are 100% ready. Well, it's not 100% ready for transition to Russian software product ecosystem. However, I believe that this readiness today is over 60%, which means today we can transfer the infrastructure of different organizations and different companies to Russian software. And we have everything that we need for this. And this is something that we're doing today. And let's make a step to a side. It is obvious to anybody, no matter how beautiful this operating system by itself, nobody needs it by itself. Why everybody loves Microsoft? Why nobody wants to switch from Microsoft? Because Microsoft has all the software from the games and all the way to specific applications which we use in oil production, metal processing, etc., etc., etc. Basically, the main break in the import substitution process, transfer to the operating system, it consists not of the fact that operating system is not good, but in the fact that number of functions related with the usage of third-party software in Western operating systems. And this is not only Windows, this is Red Hat. Speaking about the server groups in our country, it was taking leading positions, and functionality and processes I was speaking about, managing domain infrastructure. This is management of server groups of service on the software level when you manage physical facilities and you can monitor their condition, etc. And starting from backupping and all the way to specific applied software, all this together should be available, understandable, and only then you can take infrastructure and transfer it to Russian rails. Things that we do right now. These are largest projects in biggest organizations, which are the industry-setting ones, where the infrastructure includes thousands of informational systems. We work with those infrastructures. We study those informational systems together with the developers of those informational systems, which often are located in Russia. We do everything so that in a result, client could use the same informational systems on the Russian operating system. Sorry for tautology. Well, let's speak about what is the market of operational system in Russia, what is the competitive environment among Russian manufacturers, and how the operating systems will be different one from another, and which features you are going to have. If we're going to look at this topic from our marketing point of view, then we'll be able to understand that the market can be divided in different segments. And as for Russian operating systems, this segment of B2C, the end user segment, well, I wouldn't look at it, and seldom people on the market like us, they make the first steps. They try to agree with vendors of the hardware, with new brands which are unknown to Russian users. They supply their notebooks and pre-install Astra links to those notebooks. You can look at the CNews News, you can go to a number of retailers with these notebooks, but these are just first steps. As for plus-minus completed market for Russian operating systems, first of all, this is the state market. State organizations and facilities, federal and regional bodies of executive authority, state corporations, large businesses, which this or other way in our country are not directly but indirectly related with the state from the point of view of their own logistical chains, of their own suppliers or the clients, etc., etc. So from this point of view, if you will take this segment, which is close to the state public sector, then last year we were able to see, not just were able to see, but we have discovered big story in the year 2021. We have sold more Russian operating systems in this segment of the market than foreign ones. keeping in mind that there was no strict force majeure factors which would influence the level of decision making, which tells us that generally speaking today import substitution is a fact. So you're full of optimism. Yes, of course. If you will take the segment of Russian operating systems and looking at the competition inside of Russian vendors, developers, then it's a double story. If you will open well-known registry of Ministry of Telecommunications and Ministry of Digital Communications, you will see more than 60 operating systems in this system, 60 plus. Well, it's understandable that generally speaking, you could expect that any client loses his eyesight when he hears this combination operating system, but real players on this market are 3.5, out of which I want to be kind of modest, but the truth does not allow me. But the first place is taken, well, it's behind our solution, behind the operating system Astra Linux in 2021, it was about 70%. And these are numbers which I'm not taking from the head. It's not like we have calculated but in news. And we can trust them. And remaining 30% are divided between two players. And about 3-4% behind all other 57 or 56 players. The history is that what is the difference between the operating system from the Western ones? First of all, by its security for Russian users, the guarantees that inside of these solutions they have not inbuilt special injection codes tracing you. It's a big advantage for Russian developers, even when we speak about foreign markets. So any international events where we see Russian operating systems being presented, at all these events we see a live interest. Then we see a story related with localization, dealership network, support, servicing, etc. And we don't have on our side, on the colleagues, we don't see any bright implementations from Russian companies, especially if we'll take operating system about which we can say that, well, I think this is a question of 1 or 2 years. But between themselves, they are different. And, well, different by many factors, and factors are related directly with the software code. What is the difference between one and another one? Operating system from Astra Linux is the only operating system in Russia which has the means of information protection. It's a patented, well developed by my colleagues, together with academicians of Russian Academy of Science and FSB, and this is a very unique story for the world. And these means of information protection, by fact, they make it possible to use only operating system in order to cut the biggest part of threats which are possible in the model of the client. And in addition to the code, rating systems are different from each other by very serious differences. Today, the vendor perception to the client, because first of all, as we understand, the operating system is wonderful, but that would be good to have ecosystem around it. That would be wonderful if this operating system can be controlled as you control with the same Windows. Also, this is wonderful if you have basic system software solution which you used to use. For example, when you receive the same Red Hat, immediately you have a number of applications from Red Hat, and they are part of this operating system which helps you to solve your daily objectives in monitoring, management, copying, support of users, etc., inside of your stack. Same thing is done or not done by other vendors. Of course, technical support. I think this is very obvious from my previous monologue, is that when the client tries to implement and implements Russian solutions, Russian operating system, then this will always be a certain density test or stress test. And the developers should be ready to complete, to develop his solutions for his objectives. But what if you will take functionality? What is required from the side of those who already consumes our operating system? For example, like top 3, 5. What do you mean by that? Well, what functionality is required? Do you need work with files, storage for data? What clients required operating system functionality which must be available for the usability? Well, you see, the things that come to my head in the beginning, things that you call like work with the files, work with graphics, office applications, and everything else. This is so basic story. This is such a basic story, which today not a single client thinks about it, because everything from above called have been realized on a good level, so that even without any additional training, users could use it out of the box. But the question comes when we speak about building full-scale IT infrastructure and transferring this infrastructure to this platform of this Russian operating system. And questions are coming when there is a necessity of transferring big amounts of informational systems defined for other operating systems to Astra. And the question comes when it is necessary to find substitution to the stack of software which have been used in addition to the Western operating system and the Western rails, like, if we can say so, by replacing all this story by Astra stack. And in here, I would call management, I would call databases, and then I would call virtualization, and as both cloud virtualization and server-based virtualization. And out of the key stories which always are available, these are top 3. And then we have possible options like from billing and all the way. Well, there's a lot of them, a lot of different ones, and everybody can use different options, and always we're going to have reserve backupping. But the question is that there are solutions in the market, and this is all available. Everything that you've been listing, these are that way, yes. As for managing operating systems and domain infrastructure, managing users, then very often, if we are speaking about third-party products, not our products, there are certain crutches. How can we manage users in the environment of Russian operating system using functionality of Microsoft Active Directory, which is a 50-50 solution? In the course of this year, we have launched our own product, which today, for now, has no direct analogies. This is LD Pro solution, which replaces Microsoft Active Directory and allows us, which is most important, without this line of the code injection line, you can control domain the way as you do it in the Microsoft ADS, put the check marks, press the button, see the structure in a normal graphical interface. Well, you have described a very optimistic picture. I'm an optimistic person. And, by the way, speaking about Russian operating systems, there are very few companies that work with them. How many percentage-wise? Well, let's do it the following way. I cannot say exactly, at least which share on the market they take. Well, today I would like to say that there are more than 7,500 companies and more than 1.7 millions of installations. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot. But what was stopping companies to move to this Russian operating system before the end of last year? And what stops companies to this now? Are there any things which are real serious barrier? Well, stop factors have changed, and honestly speaking, I've called them. First of all, this is difficulty in transferring the whole infrastructure, because you don't have this objective to move to Russian operating system and everything else like it was. That's how it is. It's not going to work like that. Therefore, the main stop factor is in a big amount of inherited software, which was written for third-party solutions for Western operating systems, legacy systems. And in order to transfer these big amounts of legacy software, you have to do a number of actions. So any organizations except from small ones,
не в обиду будет сказано, да, но
maybe nobody will be offended, I hope.
небольших там представительств какого-нибудь
Small
РАИФа, да, или там организации,
representatives of RAIF or organization inside of the RAIF which uses three informational systems, they have been transferred long time ago to the Russian rails, and it's not difficult for them to do that. But when we're going to take more or less complicated infrastructure, this is always a lot of additional work related with selection of new software, building new algorithms, because where previously we've been using one Western solution, we can use two of them. And algorithms are changing, but the business processes are getting executed. So the main stop factor is here. And I cannot say that
мешало что-то больше.
something was stopping us from this, and right now we have less things to stop us. But from this point of view, that ecosystem around Russian products is growing from year to year. Also, thanks to these solutions by Ministry of Digital selections, where three players are selected, and if you're Russian development, if you want to be in the registry, you should work with these products. This is something that was expected by a lot of developers of Russian OSs. And otherwise, it was a story when we are manufacturing very good products, operating system is very convenient, you will understand everything. But unfortunately, doing your activities in this operating system, you will not be able, or it's going to be very difficult. Right now, this story has been broken, but it was broken not this year and not thanks to well-known factors. And by the way, this has happened a couple of years ago, when before Russian developers and honestly speaking, prior to all the largest representatives of the clients in our country, slowly they came to an understanding that this process is inevitable, is a proper one, and it is necessary to follow it. And you know, when colleagues, clients have understood it, it's much more difficult for us, and we started having much more work because they are doing right things. They started pressing the developers by saying that, yes, we want to substitute the imports, we want to use your operating system, but you have to provide us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And honestly speaking, it helped them, it helped me, because all following implementations were happening with lesser friction, if we can say so. Well, I think you have a big objective ahead of you. It's on the level of a mission, goal for the next 2 years. And honestly, I'm really happy for Russian software. And this is wonderful that we have such smart guys who do software and operating systems. And that's why I wish you, even in lower competitive environment conditions, but please make the product that's going to be competitive with legacy operating systems. And in the future, even you will be able to sell even abroad. Well, the degree of competitive fight will be very strong for us until long time. We will try to achieve the best. Alexander Gutin, the group of Astra companies. Thank you.